At exactly 1:47 a.m., the feed from a doorbell camera in the Catalina foothills is abruptly severed. It doesn't fade or glitch, it is manually terminated, plunging the porch into a permanent, artificial midnight. In the hours that followed, the silence inside the home of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie grew heavy. When the sun rose over the Arizona desert on February 1st, her kitchen remained dark, her morning tea unmade, and her chair at her virtual church service empty. To those outside, it looked like a quiet Sunday morning, but buried within the digital memory of Nancy's own body was a record of something far more terrifying. At exactly 2:28 a.m., a medical monitoring app on her bedside phone logged a critical event. Her pacemaker, the very device keeping her heart in rhythm, suddenly lost its connection to its base station. It wasn't a battery failure, and it wasn't a malfunction. It was a biological signal drifting out of range. In the cold, analytical language of forensic data, that disconnection marks the exact moment Nancy Guthrie was moved away from the safety of her bedroom. It is the last confirmed trace of a woman who physically could not have left that house on her own. We often comfort ourselves with the belief that a home is a sanctuary, a locked door a barrier against the disorder of the world. But in the early hours of February 1st, 2026, those boundaries were rendered meaningless. The abduction of Nancy Guthrie from her residence in the Catalina foothills is not just a case of a missing person. It is a federal abduction investigation that has laid bare the vulnerabilities of a quiet, upscale neighborhood. This is not a story of a woman who stepped out into the night. It is a story of a planned intrusion, a calculated disruption of a life that relied on the steady, invisible pulse of technology to survive. What makes this case a primary focus for the FBI is the chilling convergence of physical force and high-tech forensics. Today, we reconstruct the hour-by-hour timeline of a crime that has mobilized the FBI, triggered a $200,000 reward, and left a nation asking, "Where is Nancy?" Nancy Guthrie, 84, was the steady anchor of the Guthrie family, a woman described by her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, as a good and faithful servant. Nancy was known for her sharp mind and deep conviction. Despite limited mobility that required the use of a walker and daily life-sustaining medication, she lived independently in an affluent pocket of Tucson. Her life was defined by routine: Sunday morning service, family dinners, and a commitment to her health. To her children, she was the matriarch who had navigated life's challenges with grace. To the community, she was a symbol of resilience. Now, that resilience is being tested in the harshest way imaginable, as she remains without her heart medication for 3 weeks. The timeline of her disappearance is a haunting study in normalcy. 5:32 p.m., Nancy takes an Uber to her daughter Annie's house for a family dinner, a night filled with laughter and grandchildren. 9:48 p.m., her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, drops her off at her home. 9:50 p.m., the garage door closes. This is the last time she is seen by her family. The tension of that Saturday night lies in its quietness. While Nancy prepared for bed, an intruder was preparing for a breach. Within 4 hours, the safety of that home would be shattered. The alarm was raised when Nancy failed to log in to her 11 a.m. virtual church service. Friends, knowing her punctuality, contacted the family. Relatives arrived at 12:15 p.m. to find a house that felt wrong. By 12:15 p.m., police were on the scene. They discovered droplets of blood on the front porch and signs of forced entry at the rear. Search dogs were brought in, but the trail ended abruptly at the edge of the driveway, as if she had been lifted into a vehicle and driven into the desert. The early hours were marred by controversy. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos faced criticism for initially treating the scene with a search and rescue mindset before pivoting to a homicide abduction investigation within 24 hours. Reporters were initially allowed near the property, potentially compromising peripheral evidence. As the FBI took a lead role, the friction between local and federal agencies became public, particularly regarding the handling of DNA evidence and the speed of lab results. The forensic evidence is a mix of high-tech leads and physical debris. The doorbell camera. Footage shows a masked, armed individual carrying an Oscart Trail backpack at 1:47 a.m. The pacemaker. The 228 disconnect remains the most vital data point, suggesting her exact moment of removal. The DNA. A blue glove found 2 miles away appeared to be a breakthrough, but the DNA found on it did not match the National CODIS database, leaving investigators to rely on genetic genealogy to find a suspect. The case took a darker turn when at least 3 media outlets, including Cold TV, received emails demanding millions in Bitcoin. One note contained specific, unreleased details about Nancy's clothing and the layout of her home, forcing the FBI to take the demands seriously. However, despite 2 deadlines passing in mid-February, no proof of life was ever provided and no further contact has been established with the family. Savannah Guthrie has become the face of a family's grief, using her platform to speak directly to the captors. It's never too late to do the right thing. Meanwhile, the home has been besieged by true crime streamers and influencers, forcing Sheriff Nanos to issue a stern defense of the family's privacy and clear them of any suspicion, calling the online speculation cruel. As of today, investigators have processed over 18,000 tips. They are currently tracking a suspicious white van reported in the foothills and have visited local gun shops to track the purchase of the backpack and weapons seen on camera. While one individual was recently detained for questioning in a SWAT operation 2 miles away, he was released without charges, leaving the investigation in a high-stakes search for a fresh eyes perspective. The motive remains the ultimate mystery. Was Nancy targeted because of her high-profile daughter, or was this a random crime of opportunity? Federal agents have not ruled out the possibility that she was taken across the Mexican border, though there is currently no evidence she has left the Tucson area. We are at day 22. Nancy's health is fragile, and the urgency has never been higher. The $200,000 reward remains active for any information leading to her safe return. If you have any information, please contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI.